All right, welcome to the Jim Acosta Show, home of the Great American Pushback. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on in the show. Maybe I'll talk to Michael about it. I wrote about it over the weekend on Substack. Thanks to everybody for reading it. But people are pushing back against a lot of what is happening in this country right now, and rightly so. And a lot of love being shown for Michael Cohen right now. It's Michael Monday. Let's just get that out of the way right now. It is Michael Monday. That means Michael Cohen is here with us today. Great to have you back, Michael. Uh, but
Always
Michael,
good to see you, my friend.
it's
Always good to
always
see
good to
you.
see you. But it's also a manic Monday. It's a manic Monday because of what's happening on Wall Street right now. And the last that I just checked a few moments ago, the Dow is down some 400 points. You've got some major, excuse me, 900 points. You've got some major stocks out there like Tesla down like 15% right now. And stocks fell today. This is a NPR. Stocks fell again today as investors grew increasingly fearful about the tariffs and a potential recession. Wall Street was already coming off a volatile negative week, NPR says, digesting the potential impact of new U.S. tariffs. And over the weekend, Michael, as you know all too well, this is the R word is the word no president wants to hear. Fox's Maria Bartiromo asked Trump whether he expects a recession during his first year in office. The president, this according to NPR, could not say. He said this, quote, "I hate to predict things like that," Trump said. "There is a period of transition because of what we're doing is very big. We're bringing wealth back to America. That's a big thing. There are always periods of it takes a little time." Michael, what do you think of all this? Because I was a little shocked that, when Trump was asked by Maria Bartiromo over the weekend whether there's going to be a recession, he would the Trumpian Trump would say, "Of course we're not going to have a recession. There's no way we're going to have a recession." But he left the door open to it, and on top of the tariffs and all the other economic uncertainty, the markets are reacting down 890 points. I'm seeing right now, about 2% down for the day.
Jim, let me put it to you this way.
Yeah.
I watched that Maria Bartiromo interview, and what the beauty for Trump as it relates to Fox News is there is zero pushback. She's no
Well,
Jim
that's true.
Acosta. Let me put it to you that way. She's far
Yeah.
from a Jim Acosta. Zero pushback.
Yeah.
What he did turn around and say, any potential recession and why the market is falling is a direct result of the former administration. It's Joe Biden's fault.
Well, yeah.
All right. This is something that, again, that they intend to do. They intend
Right.
to whitewash the truth. I talk about it in my Substack, right? When I talk
Yeah.
about not just the Maria Bartiromo interview with Donald Trump, but the one that she also did with Representative Nicole Malliotakis of New York.
I saw
They
your post
get
about
a
that.
series of talking points memos every
Yeah.
single day. If you are going to be a surrogate for the president, these are the terms that you must use.
Right.
These are the statements that you should be using, and this is the message, the theme that President
Yep.
Trump is advancing. Everybody use these specifics, and that's what they're doing. It's why, regardless of who it is that is in front of the camera, if there is an R right after their name, Republican, you know
Yeah.
exactly what they're going to be saying. And now the topic is this is all Biden's fault.
Well,
All of this is that he inherited a shit economy from the former administration. In
yeah.
fact, since Trump took office, we're down like $8.5 trillion in market value. Let
Well,
that soak in.
but here's the thing. I mean, he can't blame Joe Biden for this. He's the president. He's in charge. He's the one who started this tariff business. Last week, he announces, "I'm going to do these big tariffs," right before the speech before the joint session of Congress. The market freaks out. The next day, he says he's going to turn off the tariffs on Canada and Mexico and their products coming in for a month. And that economic uncertainty kind of got this party started. On top of that, during that speech before the joint session of Congress, Trump is trashing Biden's CHIPS program. That sent the tech stocks into a bit of a tailspin. There's a lot of economic uncertainty there. And when the president of the United States goes on a Sunday talk show, and yes, it's Maria Bartiromo, and yes, she's in the tank, and yes, what she does is ridiculous, and he doesn't rule out having a recession, that again adds uncertainty to the markets. And so he's going to own this. And so this is baloney that he thinks he's going to be able to worm his way out of this and blame this on Joe
Well, let's
Biden.
call it what it really is. It's
Yeah,
bullshit. It's propaganda. It's
yeah,
misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation. We,
right.
as Democrats, have to stop, whitewashing what it truly is. All right. As at the end of the day, we all know that when Biden left, the economy was roaring along. The
Yes,
stock market was at its all-time high. We are now 7 weeks into this new administration, and all things have gone south. You're
that's right.
talking about federal cuts. You're talking about 80,000 cuts just to the VA alone. You're talking
Right.
about millions that they want to cut from government. They want to cut
Yeah,
Social Security. They want to cut the IRS. They want to cut, cut, cut. But they don't.
yeah,
They refuse to express to the American people the facts that even if you cut all these jobs, it's not going to make a slight indent
that's right.
into the deficit that we
And,
have, and the chance that Elon Musk will be actually able to cut over $2 trillion from our budget without touching Medicare, Medicaid, Social
yeah,
Security. You go tell grandma that she can't pay for her insulin. You go tell
that's right.
grandma that she has to move in with one of her kids simply because she doesn't have money to pay for the rent or
That's right.
electricity or food. All right. Now you go ahead, and these are the same people who voted for Trump. It's
That's
what I
right.
wrote about in my Substack. I call it buyer's remorse.
Yep. And Michael, I wrote about this about a week ago, where I basically said, hey, nobody voted for this. Donald Trump won the election in part because people wanted him to get inflation under control. Now he has people from his administration, like the Treasury Secretary, saying, well, maybe we won't be able to get inflation under control. And here's one reason why. The tariffs are not a two-way street, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the New York Times. The Canadian province of Ontario put in place retaliatory tariffs on energy it exports to Michigan, Minnesota, and New York, while Trump's trade war with
Not
China
Ontario,
intensified.
right? Isn't it Ottawa?
Well, this is according to the New York Times. Yeah, exactly. And Beijing, China is putting tariffs on American farm products, and that is the thing that Trump just cannot get through his thick skull. The tariffs are not a one-way street. You can't throw your weight around and say I'm going to do tariffs on products coming in from this country and that country and not expect things in response. And Michael, as you know, over the weekend, the Canadians selected essentially their new prime minister, Mark Carney, this central banker turned centrist politician. He gave some comments yesterday as he was giving his acceptance speech, and he, said we will not be part of America in any way, shape, or form. This is from NPR. We didn't ask for this fight, but Canadians are always ready when someone else drops the gloves. So the Americans, they should make no mistake, in trade as in hockey, Canada will win. And so, I mean, it's hard to piss off the Canadians, but he's pissed off the Canadians.
I mean, for God's sakes, half my family live in
I
Toronto.
know, I
I
know.
mean,
Yeah,
and it's like I call up my cousins. They're like, "What do you want?" I'm like, "Well,
yeah,
yeah, don't hold me accountable for this
right.
craziness." They're
Yeah,
not joking. When we
right.
heard Prime Minister Ford of Ottawa turn around and say, "If the United States does what Trump is saying," he goes, "I will kill the fucking switch to energy that is running from Ottawa to the United States, which
Yeah,
goes as far past the state of New York." One of the reasons that we buy our energy from them, it's cheaper than it would cost us to produce it ourselves. Why attack somebody who we've had such close, good relations with? Why? Simply
yeah,
because you think that you can? Simply because he and Putin and Xi Jinping, they're all in expansionist mode?
yeah,
We're not supposed to be in expansionist mode right now. Right now, our territory is our territory, right? You're not
right.
seeing, other than Putin going out there trying to reestablish the
Yeah,
former USSR. This is insane. This is authoritarian ideology. This is
yeah.
not a democratic republic. This is not what our president is supposed to be thinking about.
Yeah. Well, he's picked a fight with one of our strongest allies, and the Canadians just aren't going to put up with this crap. And Michael, on top of everything, I do want to talk about the GOP budget cuts that are coming in a moment. You touched on that, But there's also the possibility, on top of everything else that we're talking right now, of a government shutdown. Lawmakers seeking to avoid a government shutdown at the end of the week. Trump is urging the Congress, the Republican-led Congress, to pass a stopgap spending bill, but it's unclear whether there will be sufficient votes in the House this week. And when he was asked about it over the weekend, he said a shutdown, quote, could happen. And so, Michael, I mean, I'm wondering if you can help me out a little bit because you understand how Trump works. Why he almost is talking the country into a recession. He's almost talking the country into this economic crisis that seems to be looming right now. The stock market keeps going down, down, down. He won't rule out a recession, and he's not ruling out a shutdown at the end of the week while he's launching a trade war. I mean, does he
Do
want
you
the
think
whole
he
world to
has?
blow up at once? What the hell's going on
Do you
here?
think he has potentially the worst advisors around him?
That might be it.
I sometimes when I'm watching the news, I say, I wish I could just pick up the phone and call him like I had done in 2017
Yeah,
with the Muslim ban, or as he called it, the immigration ban. And I said, what are you doing?
yeah,
Stop. Number one,
yeah,
it's not you. Two, it's bad for the country. Three, you're never going to recover from it. The same here. If in fact, if in fact that the government gets shut down, remember, we haven't had a shutdown since what, 2018? And it
yeah,
cost the US taxpayer, it cost the US government, that shutdown, over $11 billion. Think
yeah,
about that. All right, 11 billion. He's talking about all the money, the fraud, the waste, the abuse that Elon and Doge has found, like the 5 million for the transgender mice surgery.
yeah,
Again, he's listening to stupid people. It's not transgender mice, it was transgenic mice,
yeah.
which are mice that are used for experiments that benefit humanity, that help to
Right.
cure diseases and so on. I mean, he made it into a transgender issue, right? These
Yep.
are the people that are surrounding him. And my biggest fear is that he's so knee deep into their stupidity right now, he doesn't even know how to get away from it. And that's
Yeah.
going to be the problem. When this country, and I suspect that we will have, that they will not pass another budget increase. By the way, in all fairness, Jim, I want to throw a quick question to you.
Yeah.
Allegedly, Elon's doing such a great job. Such a great job. Elon's doing a great job, right?
Yeah.
He's doing
Yeah.
such a great job. Why is it that we even need to increase the budget? If he's doing such a great job, shouldn't we be decreasing the budget?
Right.
I'm just
Well,
somewhat confused.
let me tell you something. I wrote about this a little bit over the weekend because there was this story in the New York Times about this rift, about this back and forth between Marco Rubio and Elon Musk, which we should talk about because you've been
Yes.
on some of these meetings before when
Hmm.
these, advisors and aides and so on go back and forth at one another. They like to fight over the dear leader sometimes to show which one loves him the most. But uh, the Washington Post, or no, the New York Times wrote a story about Steve Bannon and Elon Musk going out one another. And Steve Bannon has been raising these questions about whether or not Elon Musk is good for the Trump movement and so on. And Caroline Levitt, the White House press secretary, gave a statement to the New York Times, and it says this: Trump is thrilled with Doge's historic work under Elon Musk, and he will continue to cut the waste, fraud, and abuse in our federal government on behalf of the American people. So there you have it right there, ladies
Yeah.
and gentlemen. The White House is saying Donald Trump is thrilled with what Elon Musk is doing. So if they come out in a week from now, 2 weeks from now, and there's some big falling out, they have put it out there that they are
You
thrilled
heard
with
it
what he
right
is
here
doing.
on the Jim Costa Michael Monday. You heard it. It's bullshit.
It's
All right. And
it,
let me go one step
thrilled
further
with
here.
firing veterans, thrilled with firing people at the Social Security Administration, thrilled with firing all of the people at almost all of the people at USAID. Marco Rubio said today he's gotten rid of just about everything but 18% of USAID. I mean, it's staggering what they've done there. This is also adding to the economic anxiety. And the White House press secretary is saying that Donald Trump is thrilled with
Okay,
Doge.
because there's nothing else that he can say. Everything with
Yeah,
Trump is appearance. He cannot allow the American people to think that there's chaos in the White House, despite the fact that each and every one of us, almost 5,000, let's get to past 5,000
yeah,
people with us, every one
let's
of
do it.
us sees for ourselves what is going on. Every single one of us listens to the news at some point during the day, and we
Yeah.
hear the chaos that's going on. We see it, we hear it, and what are they telling? What is Caroline Levitt saying? Do not trust your lying eyes. Ignore your lying ears. I'm going to tell you what's really going on there. Let
Yeah.
me be very clear. I know Steve Bannon very, very well. Steve Bannon is 100% correct. In fact, I was contemplating on calling him on his
Yeah.
cell, going on his podcast, on his radio show to talk about this.
Yeah.
Elon Musk will ultimately fail, and he will
Yeah.
fail Donald Trump in this mission, this
Yeah.
Project 2025 mission
Yeah.
that is so detrimental to so many different
But
people. You know, Jim, when you start hurting
yeah,
veterans, when you start hurting children with cancer, there
that's
is
right.
no positive. There's no thumbs up that you can get that the American people will not find abhorrent, even
Yeah.
those who are the most ardent MAGA supporters.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And I mean, the thing that I don't get, I mean, first of all, the fact that you and I are agreeing with Steve Bannon, I mean, write this date down because that this doesn't happen very often. But Steve Bannon has his finger on something, and I hate to say it, but he has his finger on something. Is
He's
that
right.
the people in the Trump movement, the people in MAGA world, they first of all, I have to think they're slightly uncomfortable with the fact that Elon Musk gave $290 million to the effort to help elect Donald Trump. I think, first of all, just about any American has to find that to be absolutely outrageous. What the hell is going on in this country when the richest man in the world can buy American democracy? I'm sorry. It's deeply disturbing. We shouldn't allow it in this country. People say, "Oh, Citizens United, the Supreme Court, you can put it whatever amount of money, you can dump it all in there, whatever you want to do." But I think it just makes anybody uncomfortable, no matter where you are on the political spectrum. And then on top of that, it seems because of that price that he paid, he's been given basically carte blanche to do whatever he wants across the federal government, so long as Donald Trump and the rest of MAGA can continue to suck off the
Mhm.
political donating teat of Elon Musk. And to me, you know, they're paying a price for it right now. They're paying a huge political
No, no,
price
no,
right now.
Jim.
You're getting you see people getting
I
laid off
never
left and
correct you.
right.
I never correct you. They are not suffering. We collectively, as America, are
Well, that's
suffering. In
true.
fact,
Yeah.
the people who are suffering the most are the poorest Americans amongst us. Right?
Yes.
These billionaires don't give two shits if a carton of eggs is $12 or $1,200. They have
Yeah.
so much money that they can spend it in 100 lifetimes. They're not thinking about grandma or grandpa. They're not thinking about even their own constituents who can't afford rent, who can't afford gasoline, the groceries up
Yeah.
20%. They don't care about them. This
That's right.
was all about getting Donald Trump reelected. And here's the thing, too. I'm glad you opened up this door for me as a
Yeah.
segue.
Yeah.
We in the DNC have a new leader. His name is Ken Martin. The question that now needs to be posed to Ken Martin: are you going to follow some old, antiquated playbook that the Democrats have been using year after year, election after election for the last 50 plus years? Or are you going to start getting innovative? Are you going to
Yeah.
start speaking to people who know how to defeat
Yeah.
somebody like Donald Trump, like this MAGA movement? All right.
Yeah.
Because if he doesn't, if they put out a post today, a DNC post, it was one of the most embarrassing posts I've ever seen. Please, we need your help. We're
Right.
desperate. Send us $15. Let me be clear. There's, let's say, 100 million registered Democrats in the United States. If each and every one of them sent in their $15, you'd have $1.5 billion. That's not how you're going to win. You're not going to win it with money. Why? Because Elon Musk, who made $246 billion since Donald Trump became president elect, he could stroke a check equal to a
Yeah.
100 million and not think
Right.
twice about it. Money doesn't mean anything to him when you're worth 400+ billion dollars. And
That's
people
right.
have to get that through their head. Big shit. One of his rockets blew up. Okay, fine. It was 25, 50 billion. He doesn't give a shit. Fuck it.
Yeah.
He just
Yeah.
doesn't care.
He doesn't
Right?
care. No, it's true.
He
And
has
but
the ability to stroke a check without caring, equal to that of every other Democrat in the United States
yeah.
combined.
Yeah. Well, and the Democrats need to wake up in the way that they talk to people right now, because
Mhm.
you have to meet people where they are, where they live, and what they're going through right now. You mentioned what Elon Musk has been doing. I mean, I wrote about this over the weekend, picked up on something that was in a Reuters story. They went out to Parkersburg, West Virginia, not too long ago, and spoke with residents there whose jobs were cut at the Treasury Department's Bureau of Fiscal Service. This is an office in Parkersburg, West Virginia. And they talked to this one lady who said, nobody that I've talked to understood the devastation that having this administration in office would do to our lives. And she went on to say she would not have supported Trump if she knew then what she knows now. And there are lots of Trump supporters who are now in this boat. And I'm curious what you think, Michael, because I've heard a lot of people on social media, a lot of people say, "Well, I told you so," and "Well, screw these people. They're getting what they voted for," and so on. I don't think that's the right approach. I
Totally
think the
wrong
ri-
approach.
I think the right approach is we're all Americans. We're all on the same team. Donald Trump, he wrote a wave of bullshit into the White House. He totally misled people as to what he was going to do. He got elected in part because he said he was going to get inflation under control. And what he is doing is he appears to be on the path to delivering a recession to people in this country. And this is when we need to start looking out for one another.
Yep. Look, you're
Yeah.
100% correct. In fact, as
Yeah.
I was saying earlier, I wrote
Yeah.
an article in my Substack on it called Buyer's Remorse. That's
Yeah.
what's going on. Whether you're from
Yeah.
Venezuela and you voted for Trump and they're saying, oh my God, I'm now wearing an ankle monitor simply because ICE came, kicked down our door, and wants to
Yeah.
deport us. Then you have a whole slew of other individuals who are saying, including veterans for Trump,
Yeah.
80,000 employees being cut. And that's just the first wave of cuts.
That's
Now they're
right.
not going to get the medical attention they need. What is it? It's like 21 or 22 veterans a day are taking
Yeah.
their lives, and you're going to cut 80,000 from support. IRS is gone.
Yeah.
How about the veterans that were working in DC, right?
Yeah.
After doing their service, the ultimate service to protect our Constitution,
That's
to
right.
protect our democratic
And not
republic.
just in
And
DC,
now
but
you
in a lot of
fire
different
them.
offices around the country. A
Yeah,
lot of,
and now they're
yeah.
firing these people. They're not going to be able to get the medical attention or the physical attention that they need in
That's right.
order to put themselves right, either physically or mentally. This is despicable. Again, like with
Yeah.
NIH going after programs that are examining children and cancer. I mean, for God's
Right.
sakes, this is just the beginning. Remember when I also warned everybody about Trump and the First Amendment? When I
Yes.
wrote about it in my book, Revenge, how Donald Trump, it's really Bill Barr, weaponized the Department of Justice against his
That's right.
critics. He's doing it again right now. We're
Yep.
seeing with these illegal protests that he deems illegal. If
Right.
you are a foreign student, you're arrested and deported. If you're
Yeah.
an American student, you are arrested and expelled. I,
Yeah.
Michael Cohen, the one and only so far to date political prisoner held by my own country, held here in the United States because I refused to waive my First Amendment constitutional right. I warned
Yeah.
everybody what they did to me, what Trump and Bill Barr and that administration did to me was
Yep.
basically a litmus test on how far that they're going to need to change what
Yeah.
they did to me so that they can make it into a reality.
Yeah. Well, it pisses me off that Michael, you went to prison, and yeah,
Twice.
twice, and Trump got convicted for the in the Alvin Bragg case. Okay, that's all. That's fine. That's not going to go anywhere. He's not going to go to jail as a result of that. But he escapes any accountability in the classified documents case. He escapes any accountability in the January 6th case. I just saw somebody chime in saying
Jim,
this is a
whose fault
disgrace.
is
It
that?
is a disgrace. Well,
Whose fault is that?
That's
Whose
Merrick
fault?
Gar. That's
Let's
the
be
Attorney
no, no,
General Merrick
no.
Garland's fault. There's no
It's
question about.
100% Joe
Yeah,
Biden and Merrick Garland's
that's
fault.
you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right
100%.
about it.
Joe
Yeah,
Biden, biggest mistake in his entire administration was
yep,
making Merrick Garland attorney general.
that's
Not
right.
that Merrick Garland
Correct.
isn't brilliant. He should have been a Supreme Court judge. He was an ineffective and horrible attorney general. Bill
Yep,
Barr was a horrible human being, but he did what Trump wanted.
he
He
did
went
Trump's
after
bidding.
people
Yeah,
like myself. This all falls on him. Had they moved quicker, Trump could not have delayed himself out of those specific cases.
that's right. And those are the ones that were obviously much more serious for him in terms of the potential for conviction and jail time. And Michael, I do want to ask you though a little bit about the issue you brought up earlier, which is the GOP budget cuts that are coming down the pike. I mean, one of the things that people need to keep their eyes on is the way Medicaid is going to get cut. Healthcare for the poor is going to get cut. And as part of Medicaid cuts, people don't realize this. Medicaid helps keep rural hospitals in business. So again, I saw this in the Washington Post over the weekend. The Washington Post reporting multiple states are saying that their rural hospitals may go under as a result of these Medicaid cuts that are going to be necessary, that according to the Republicans, to pay and extend Donald Trump's tax cuts. Again, Michael, we're talking about real people getting hurt because of this extreme agenda. And I'm just, what's your view on what the Democrats should do about this? You and I were talking about this a little bit earlier. It almost seems as though Steve Bannon has his finger on it a little bit in terms of what the Democrats should do. And what I'm seeing from the Democratic Party is they just seem to be lost. There's no
Well, no,
direction. There's no
it's not that
leadership. They
it's
don't know
not
where to
that they're
go.
lost, Jim. No, no,
What is it?
it's not that they're lost. It's not that we're lost. What it is we're powerless. All right.
Yeah,
The Republican Party, Trump's party, they control the House, they control the Senate, they control the Supreme Court, and they control the White House.
yeah,
So, what are Democrats to do? Let me be very clear.
that's true.
Let me
That's
be
true.
very clear what somebody like Ken Martin needs to do. Either he does it kind of like the way I'm dictating, or get the fuck out. Because at the end of the day, if he doesn't do it this way, we will lose in 2026. Forget about these.
Yeah,
Forget about these pathetic posts in order to raise money. The
yeah.
DNC head is not supposed to be a
They had all the
cheerleader
money.
for raising money.
They
He's
had all the money
supposed
in
to
the world
be
in the last election with Kamala Harris had $1 billion. I mean,
big
they
deal.
had money.
Elon
Yeah,
Musk could have easily tripled it, not thought twice about it. What we
yeah,
need to do is get back to grassroots. I need to go to those communities, the
yeah.
ones that you're talking about with the local hospitals. I need to go to those communities.
Yes,
Other
yes.
Democrats like you, Jim Acosta,
Let's
need to
go.
go to them, and you need to have a town hall. This
Let's
would
do it.
never have happened had you voted. But we can't talk about like the way Trump talks about it. Would never have happened, if I was president and so on. No.
Michael, you think you and I could have a town hall and pack a high school gymnasium? You think we could do
You
that? You
think we
think
could pack Madison Square Garden?
I think we could I think we could get some people in some butts and some seats. I
Yeah,
mean, look at
no
what Bernie
doubt.
Sanders is doing right now. I mean, Bernie Sanders is getting lots of people showing up at these town halls. I mean, he's not in any kind of jeopardy, and people are just absolutely
Jim,
pissed.
yeah, let me just finish the point I was making
Go
here.
ahead, go
You and
ahead.
I, we
Let's
go
do it.
into
Yeah,
these local communities
yeah.
because there's name recognition. Everybody loves Jim Acosta. All right.
Everybody loves
Um,
Michael Cohen.
Now I'm not so sure about everybody, but just some people.
Not
Uh,
everybody loves me.
right? Everybody loves you except for Trump. Let
Oh
me
yeah,
put it to you this way. So we go in and we sit down and we talk to these people in their
yeah,
community and we
yeah,
say, we will not abandon you. This is not a political promise. This is an American promise. This isn't a Democratic issue.
that's right.
This isn't a Republican issue. This is
That's
not
right.
an independent issue. This is an American issue. You are the people who help to keep the rest of the community healthy and protected,
Yeah.
including our veterans, including our police officers, including our civil servants, including
And
just our neighbors.
And I
And
don't
we
want it to
will
be
not
just
abandon
Democrats.
you.
I don't want it to be just Democrats. I want
No,
Trump supporters who are pissed off and hopping mad right now.
Yes.
They need to show up and talk about what they are going through. I want to hear about what they are going through. And I don't want to say, ha ha, I told you so, or F around and find out. I don't want to say those things. I want to know what you're going through. I want to understand what's happening. Nobody's
Because
doing that.
when
Yeah.
Jim Acosta and Michael Cohen find out what you are going through, a
Yeah.
it gives us a chart on what needs to be done to correct it.
Yeah.
Right? There's always a solution. All right. Trump is creating problems. Like, let me rephrase that. His
Yeah.
administration is creating problems. Elon Musk is creating problems. If
Yeah.
Democrats want to secure 2026, the only way to do that
Right.
is you have to go into the communities, grassroots
Yeah.
reorganization. We need to hold hands with these people and say, it's okay that you voted for Trump. It's all
That's
right.
right.
You got duped
That's
along
right.
with 77 million other people.
Yep.
We need to find out what's going on here so that we could push for a better agenda come 2026. But we
Yeah.
need you.
That's right. And I'm so glad you and I got to this point in the conversation. You and I always seem to do this, Mike. We get to the nut of the issue. And I want to bring it back to what we were saying at the top of the program, which is Donald Trump gets asked, "Are we going to go into a recession?" He says, "I don't know. Maybe we're going to go into a recession. It'll be the best recession." I don't know. Whatever he said, the man should be saying, I will do everything in my power every day, every week, every month to stop any kind of recession from happening in this country. No matter what it takes, I will do that. I don't want the country to slide it. He didn't say that.
No.
When he's asked about, the tariffs and whether the prices are going to increase and so on. Listen, if your economic policy is causing prices to go up, reverse course, man. If it's going to cause Wall Street to tank, reverse course, man. He's just hell bent on doing this.
It's not
And
on Trump. It's not his fault. These are
yeah,
his surrogates. It's not his fault. He didn't do it.
yeah,
But you know what you can do, Jim Acosta, right? You can put chickens in your backyard. Build a
yeah,
chicken coop. That way you don't have to worry about the price of eggs. Really, my God,
yeah.
what a
We'll put
genius
our money in our
response,
mattress while we're at it, or bury it in the backyard. What is this? The
right?
grapes of wrath? You know, what's Trump doing here? I just don't get. He's in office for 6 weeks, and we're already talking about a recession. What the hell is going on? I think this town hall thing is a perfect idea. We ought to go do it.
And I think you and I should do it.
We'll do it. We'll
And
make
there are
it. We'll put it
several
on
other people
Substack.
that,
We'll just do it. Let's just do
yeah,
it. All right.
100%.
All right. Michael, great to see you as
As
always.
always, Jim.
All right.
Thank
Take
you.
care. All
Thank you
right.
to everybody. Follow me on Substack.
Don't forget to follow Michael on Substack.
Right.
He's not only doing live podcasts, he's also writing great pieces that
Thank
are very vintage Michael Cohen. Michael, good to see you. Michael Monday, everybody.
you. You got it, Jim.
All right. Thanks again.
Always.
And Michael, Michael right there, I think, he and I, sometimes we're listening to one another. Sometimes we're talking to one another. Sometimes we're yelling at one another, but it's all from a good place. And it's all about getting to I think a really good understanding as to what's going on in this country right now. And I hope you got a little information there too. My next guest, I think I just saw her join the chat there in the bottom. I'm going to bring in Tara Palmieri. Tara Palmieri is also an independent journalist like myself. She just left Puck and is starting her own independent media venture. And I think you're going to want to hear from Terry. She's a terrific reporter, been doing a lot of reporting in Washington for some time, knows Trump world very well, has a lot of sources in Trump world. And I want to welcome Tara Palmieri into the program. It looks like she
Oh,
is coming. There she is right there. She's sideways. Now she's vertical. Tara, I can't tell you how many people have done exactly what you did just there.
yeah,
That's the beauty of what we're doing here at Substack. It's raw, it's unfiltered. We just
totally.
go with it. Good to see
Ex-
you.
Good to see you, Jem. Thanks for having me. I love it. I can constantly watch you, which is amazing, and I'm really proud of what you've built in such
Aw,
a short period of time. I mean,
I
so much
appreciate that.
bravery, and actually, it's something that has motivated me to want to take the leap to. We should be, you know what it's like to work in an organization where
Yeah.
even in the most subtle ways, you're following, the direction of the leadership and or the people around you are, and it stifles your voice and your true authenticity and what you believe and know. And like
Yeah.
it's really a special thing to be able to do this and that we have these platforms. So
Totally. Well, and you can let loose here, which is what I like about it. And
yeah.
maybe, with Michael Cohen on, I let a little too loose.
Oh.
But these
Mm,
conversations are great because I do think the long form format, you eventually get to kind of the heart of the matter. And
mm,
I know that you do that quite a bit with your reporting. And you were just saying, what I've built here. I just want to say, first of all, what we have built here. I mean, it's
mm,
incredible. I got all these folks who tune in on a daily basis. They chime in the chat and so
mm,
on. And I think that's one of the things you're going to love about it too when you do these lives, Tara, is you get your followers, your listeners, your
mm,
viewers chiming in and saying what they want to say. And I want to talk about your independent media venture and congratulations on that.
mm,
But just to jump off of what Michael and I were talking about right now, what are your thoughts on where this new, where Trump 2.0 is right now? He's
mm.
out there giving interviews over the weekend, not ruling out a recession. He's, sort of blowing off the idea that prices may go up because
Yeah.
of his tariff policy. And it's kind of strange. I mean, one would think the Donald Trump I would used to cover. I can't imagine him saying, "Oh well, maybe there might be a recession." It's just very strange. Do you? I mean, what are your thoughts? What are you
Yeah,
picking up on?
it is really strange, and
Yeah.
really from the beginning, he and Elon Musk have said it will be painful. I mean, he said it at the
Hmm.
State of the Union, like they've been very candid. At
Hmm.
the same time, he's saying, "Oh, I'm going to make the government all this money with these tariffs," but like he doesn't. It seems like he's forgotten the mandate, which has been
Yeah.
to address the economic concerns. I mean, there were three things that Americans wanted. They wanted to lower inflation, they wanted to stop migration, and God, I can't even remember the third one at this point, but they just felt like those were the top of mind issues, and they
Yeah.
wanted stability in foreign, across the world. Um, and I
Well, I
think they
think the
wanted,
third thing might have been the revenge and retribution, which is something he is doing. I mean, of all the
yeah,
promises he's keeping right now, he is keeping that promise to seek
yeah.
revenge and retribution.
I
But
don't
anyway,
think voters voted for him for revenge. I don't think voters cared about his personal hangups or issues. At least not the
yeah,
voters that gave him the election, the ones who tipped it off.
agreed.
I think that they thought he'll get in office, he'll do what he did before, he'll let Hillary off, he'll actually spend time, trying to deliver. The interesting part about this, Jim, is that Donald Trump's not running for reelection. And maybe
Yeah,
that's why we're seeing
yeah,
that. Is this more about helping his buddies and his friends? You know what I mean?
interesting.
Although,
Yes,
um, you know, it's hard to say. I know Donald Trump Jr. denied a piece in Mediaite that he's interested in running again. But from all the people that I know, for a very long time, I've been covering and following them. There's everyone that has known the Trumps for a long time has known that this is a family franchise. It always has
yes.
been, and politics is the new business for him. And
They see
I
themselves as
see
kind of an American monarchy.
Exactly, and I see
Yeah,
JD Vance as a standholder, frankly, because what
I
vice
agree.
president will, really take the mantle and be, the true standard bearer for the party, especially when Donald Trump is the president and you're
Yep.
the one who is sort of having to, smooth things out all the time. And I think that you're going to see Donald Trump Jr. emerge later on in the game.
Yeah, I
Listen,
tend to agree with you, and I think that for him to deny that he has any thought about this or any interest in this whatsoever, the thoughts never crossed his mind. Come on, give me a break.
yeah.
You and I both covered the Trump family for some time. What do you think is going on between Donald Trump and Elon Musk? What are you picking up on in your reporting? Because at the speech a week ago, he said, "Oh, Elon Musk is in charge of Doge. He's heading up Doge." And then within the next couple of days, he's telling his cabinet secretaries, "Oh no, you're the ones who are in charge of firing, not Elon Musk." And there's this rift, this fight between Musk and Marco Rubio that gets leaked to the New York Times. Some of
Mm.
this says to me that maybe Elon Musk's rocket flew a little too close to the sun. What's your sense of it?
I think that yes, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Cabinet once they were confirmed in the cabinet, I was starting to hear from cabinet members, well, people close to them that they were unhappy with the Doge cuts and the fact that people had to respond in email and CC their bosses on, who would be fired because A, it's a security risk if you are in the national security space. Kash
Yeah.
Patel picked up the phone and called Donald Trump and said, I don't want, my agents CCing their managers and saying what they've been working on last week. Imagine if
Yeah.
that gets hacked, okay? Which is exactly what China is trying to do all the time.
Right.
I heard this from
Right.
my State Department sources as well. You had State Department also saying, do not follow this protocol. You had Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence. You had basically all of
Wow.
the cabinet secretaries telling their staff, do not respond to this email. The only person who really rolled was RFK Jr.
Yeah.
But the HHS administrator said, listen, be very broad. If you're working on some sort of vaccine or, virus, prevention or whatever, just keep it very broad, scientific
Yeah.
research that is protected. But they all saw that, he hindered their work. These people care, whatever you think of them, loyalists, et cetera. When you walk into a department, you need people
Yeah.
that work there to be loyal to you and work for you. And Kash Patel himself knew that he needs the agents in the field. Those are the people
That's
that are
right.
going to be his support team. And without them, he's toast. And
Yeah.
so this was a real issue, and it was interesting to see Kash Patel. And then you heard, it wasn't just Marco Rubio standing up to Trump. And frankly, I think Marco Rubio has. Ugh, there's a word for what he's been going through, but we can talk about
Yeah.
that later. He has
Well,
lost
yeah, I
so
mean,
much power.
Rubio, yeah, I mean, Rubio, he really, you know, tossed aside a lot. I mean, I'm just be diplomatic a little bit since he's a top diplomat. He tossed aside a lot of his closely held principles and beliefs to fit into MAGA world, into Trump world, and he appears to be paying the price. I mean,
Yeah,
today he put out this tweet saying that he's slashed the workforce over at USAID, but that came after this fight emerged in the New York Times saying that Elon Musk was berating Marco Rubio for not doing enough cuts, and then Marco Rubio puts this out there. It makes me think, well, maybe Elon Musk is still kind of in charge. But
yeah.
I've been doing this segment on my show. I've been calling it "What the Musk," and I bring it up from
That's
time to
great.
time. But I mean, Elon Musk is, and again, he's the richest guy in the world, so I don't have any sympathy for him. But he is, I mean, he is taking it on the chin a bit. I mean, Tesla's shares were down more than 13% for the day in afternoon trading. It's down 50% from a mid-December peak right after the election. And then there were these outages apparently earlier today on X that left the platform unavailable to thousands of users. This is according to the Associated Press. And
This happened to
Musk,
me. I saw it. I couldn't
oh,
use
is that
Twitter
right? You saw
today.
it
Yeah,
too. And
everyone
so
was.
things aren't, I mean, he had a
How
rocket
do you
blow
do
up
it
the other
all,
day,
right? Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
a little bumpy.
The other thing I thought that was really interesting was that Sean Duffy, who is the FAA administrator, the Federal Aviation Administration, you may have talked about this on your show, but he
Yeah.
too stood up to Musk and he said,
Interesting.
"You want us to fire air traffic controllers?" And he said, "Which air traffic controllers did you fire?" This is what Elon Musk said back
Yeah.
to Duffy, and Duffy said, "We didn't fire them. We stopped you from firing them." They're
Hmm.
acting like it's like a Tasmanian devil. He's moving so quickly and so rapidly. They're breaking things and then trying to put them back together. They're firing people and then having to bring them back. The
Yeah.
government is understaffed when it comes to air traffic controllers. Like that is just one place you don't touch. And Duffy actually said in this meeting, according to the New York Times, my I am dealing with so many crashes. The guy
Yeah.
is underwater. I mean, and imagine being Marco Rubio again, not to go back to this, but you got Steve Witkoff, by the way, all over your turf, dealing with Ukraine,
True.
dealing with Israel. He's
Yes.
basically split the role of Secretary of State with Trump's bestie, another unelected, friend of his,
Yeah.
billionaire, who actually doesn't need to recuse himself from any of his business holdings. He was
Yeah.
actually bailed out of a hotel by Qatar just a few years ago, his Park Lane Hotel in New York. Qatar and the UAE bought his hotel for $100 million, and he's handling our Middle East negotiations. So
Yeah.
these are all of the things that are going on, and I think my sense is I'm going to make a wild prediction. I think Marco Rubio is going to be a Rex Tillerson.
Yeah. I tend to agree with you. I think of all the cabinet members, Marco Rubio survives, the least in all of this, and he may get a Rex Tillerson type X while
On the
um,
toilet in
yeah, I was gonna
Africa.
say in the John or whatever. It's not a very glamorous life in Trump world sometimes, especially when you get fired by the guy. But the question that I have is, it's damn peculiar. I guess it's not that peculiar that there's this much chaos and this much turmoil with Donald Trump coming back into the White House. I expected this to some extent, but the way that he seems to be saying, "Okay, Elon Musk, do whatever you want," even if it is detrimental to his political prospects. I mean, the last thing people might say, "Oh, well, Trump's not going to run again." Well, we don't know about that. And the other thing
Well,
is,
yeah,
yeah, we don't. I
it's
think
true.
he might toy with that idea quite a bit. But the other thing we don't know is what's going to happen during the midterms. The last thing that Donald Trump wants is for the Democrats to take over the House and the Senate. People might say there's no way they're going to get the Senate, but you just don't know what's going to happen
Mm.
in the next year or two. And this is he is flailing a bit more than I thought he would, politically speaking.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Yeah,
And um, I think that Elon Musk was a heat shield for the first few months from Trump,
yeah,
right? You see Elon Musk's poll numbers just diving. Um, and he went from being popular, cool rocket man to I think he's in the 30s right now. Trump has
yeah.
been okay. He's been in the 40s. But when does it start rubbing off on Trump? When does it look like he is mismanaging the government by leaving, the sledgehammer to Elon Musk? When does it
Right.
start affecting their people? When does it start affecting veterans? When does it start
Yeah.
affecting park rangers? I was actually in Vegas a few weeks ago, random, I know, but I was watching the news, Fox 5, local news, which you would think
Yeah.
would be a bit more conservative. All over the news, parks are in disarray, parks are closed, this and that. People go to Vegas
I,
for the parks,
Yeah,
you know,
I'm glad you brought
tourism.
that up because and then Trump people know this, and you and I know this because we've covered a lot of campaigns.
Yeah.
Local news is a very powerful thing. These
Oh,
local
yeah.
stations and all these important TV markets and so on, when you get and all of these various TV markets around the country, and I worked in local news myself many years ago, they are just going hog wild every day covering these various federal agencies and departments of the federal government that are having huge cutbacks and layoffs.
Mm,
And just about every local station in the country, every local newspaper in the country is covering this stuff. And people are consuming this information in all of these very important battleground states. And I
mm.
have to think that that is part of the reason why you're seeing Trump's poll numbers suffer as well. Tara, I
He
do want
has
to.
been pretty buoyant, though, I will say, considering
He
the
has
fact
been.
that considering the egg crisis, considering what I mean. So I think people have a two feelings about Trump. They
Yeah,
like the cuts. They really do. They like the action. They have
yeah,
had years of having a president who was not there. Like he was just
yeah,
not present. And Trump is acting in the job of president, even if it is just signing executive orders with big Sharpies and throwing them into crowds like a
yeah.
WWE fight. He's there. You're watching
Correct.
him. He looks like he's in charge and it looks like he's in power. So it leaves people hopeful. But I also think they're concerned about the mismanagement. So like what's the issue? It's Musk.
Yeah.
So when does the
I
bromance end?
Yeah, that is the question, and I do think because I was talking to Ron Brownstein about this earlier today. He and I were having a conversation, and he was saying, Jim, I didn't realize that Trump was such a guy who was into cutting the fat in the federal government or
Never
waste, fraud,
was.
and abuse. Never really was. And to me, the thought that occurred to me was this is not really about cutting waste, fraud, and abuse. Some of it may be about rewarding his rich buddies and his powerful friends and so on. To me, it's about making people afraid. It's about having people running scared in all of these federal agencies. And I think there's a part of Donald Trump that is enjoying that part of the Elon Musk show right now. For all the
Mm-hmm.
talk of Donald Trump being a reality TV show, it's almost like he has his own little Elon Musk reality TV show going on right now. And it fits back into his ideas of seeking retribution and going after the so-called deep state and so on. I think he just likes the idea of spreading fear and panic and chaos because it puts him in the position of being the guy that everybody has to go up to and beg and please don't cut this and please don't cut that and
Right.
save this part of this agency and that part of that agency. And I just think he likes my experience covering him and being around him is he loves the dear leader treatment.
Yeah.
And this exacerbates the dear leader treatment. This creates more opportunities for the dear leader treatment. It's sort of like the tariffs. He likes the idea that these world leaders are calling him and saying, please don't do these tariffs here.
Mm.
Please don't do these. tariffs there because he gets the dear leader treatment. I don't. What do you think?
I have a different view of it. I
Yeah.
do think he likes the chaos and he likes to watch people fight, and I'm sure he enjoyed the cabinet meeting where, Marco and
Yep.
Elon had it out and everyone's vying for his love and attention. But I think he has picked a few targets that are rich, that are not
Mm.
popular. Right now, federal government, not very popular. Not a lot of people who
Yeah.
know people who work in government in general. It's a rich target. A lot it is like it's an easy target.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't realize how much government does for them in their day-to-day lives. They don't realize how much they're supported by Medicare, Medicaid. Maybe it doesn't say it directly at the check. Maybe it says it's like Ohio Cares rather
Yeah.
than Medicare. I think people hate government handouts
Yeah.
or the idea of them. And so I think
They
he's
don't
picked
like government until they need it. It's like these
exactly.
Medicaid
No,
cuts I was talking about with Michael Cohen
yeah.
earlier is that, rural hospitals are going to suffer as a result of these Medicaid cuts. And a Trump supporter who lives in Kentucky or Kansas or whatever might rely on one of these rural hospitals, and they just don't realize that Medicaid funding helps keep those hospitals alive. And
No,
some
I
of it is
completely
some of
agree
it's
with
on
you.
us to report on this stuff.
I mean, my I see it in my own family. Like my father's
Yeah.
very MAGA, but he also is accepting Social Security checks right now. But you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what his medical care is, but he actually like
Yeah.
worked in the government at one point. But
Yeah.
there's just this feeling Congress is so unpopular. Attack Congress every morning. I know this, you know this from when we covered the White House. Like they woke up in the morning. He woke up in the morning. He thought,
Yeah.
how can I set the agenda? How can I own the libs today? How can I drive them
Yeah.
crazy and off agenda? And that is what he did. And so
I, I I think
it's
that's part of it too. I think that's part of
yeah,
the Doge thing too. It's a way to drive people crazy. It's a way to own the libs, cut
yeah.
the do-gooders over at the USAID without any thought as to the great work that so many of them do around the world. And Tara, I do want to ask you because you have jumped into the deep end of the independent media
Yeah.
pool, sort of, like I did about a month or so ago. And why'd you decide to do it? Tell us a little bit about what you're doing right now.
Well, thanks for asking. So,
Yeah,
I just started to realize as I had a podcast, I still have it with The Ringer, and it's
yeah,
an election podcast. And I just started to realize that most of the people that I loved and cared about were getting their news on their phones online, and they
yeah,
were not watching TV anymore, and
yep.
they were getting it on TikTok, they were getting it on Substack, they were signed up to they were on Instagram, they were on YouTube. And I came home and I saw my boomer dad just scrolling through YouTube, going from one to the next. My cousin's
My
reading
dad does the same thing.
yeah, my cousin's reading House and Habit, like, on Substack. So it's like I just started to realize, like, people aren't going to the place that I'm in right now, and I also found through the
Yeah,
podcast that I was developing my own voice, and I really didn't want to have somebody else like, I just it wasn't I didn't want to speak in somebody else's voice, and even though I loved writing for
yeah,
Puck and it helped me develop my voice, there was a certain tone to the publication, the indeeds and the of courses, and it's for a very elite leadership behind a very, like, hard paywall, and I
mm,
wanted to go broader. I wanted to, kind of, focus on different things and really just develop me and who I am and my voice, and it just feels like the right time right now, and seeing people
yeah.
like you, trailblazers, I'm just like, "You know what? If you don't do it now, someone's gonna push you out the door, and I'd
I'm like
rather go out on
I'm
my
like
own
Daniel Boone
terms."
in the coonskin hat,
Yeah.
looking out to the horizon and saying, "Yes, we
But
must go."
But it just
I'm
didn't
kidding.
it
I don't know
didn't
what I'm
seem
doing.
exciting to me anywhere else. The people that I was excited to see were the ones who were trailblazing, and I was like, "You know what?
Yeah,
That's for me right now." And honestly, when I joined Puck, it felt like a trailblazing thing, and it still is, but it just at this
yeah,
point in my life, this is a better fit for me. And I'm really excited because I'm gonna continue doing investigative reporting. I'm gonna
good.
continue to, bring all my scoops and a little bit of political gossip because we need to have some mischief and fun too. So
Absolutely.
I hope you'll tune in, and I'll, I hope to keep doing lives with people like you. And if I get any scoops or anything like that that you want to dig into, I'd be happy to talk and all of that. So,
Absolutely. Anytime you get a scoop, just hit me up and we'll get you
okay.
on. But it's so great to talk to you. It's so great to see you smiling and doing well and
Yeah,
happy. It is kind of
thanks.
liberating, right? You do this,
Yeah.
you're like, oh shit, and then you're like, Oh, this is great. I love this. I'm having a great
Yeah,
time.
I'm having a great time right now.
Yeah.
Now I have to figure out how to pay the bills, but that's okay. We'll figure that out when the time
Well,
comes.
follow Tara Palmieri, subscribe to her Substack. We'll get that going. And but in the meantime, let me know if you have any thoughts or questions or anything, and I'm
Oh
happy
yeah.
to lend a hand as best as I can. But great to talk to you, Tara. Good to see you, and
Thanks.
best of luck
Thanks.
with the podcast and all of the independent media things that you're doing. Let's keep doing this. Let's keep the conversation going.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
All right.
Cheers.
See you later. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. That was Tara Palmieri, my old campaign uh, trail buddy. One of the great things about this show, and I've talked about it before, is I get to interview so many of my friends, and Tara is one of those folks that I've just become very good friends with over the years, seeing her out on the campaign trail at various events over at the White House and so on. And she is a really terrific person. So if you get a chance, subscribe to her stuff, follow her stuff. I do want to end the show finally by talking about a post that I put out there. I put a text post out there yesterday about the great American pushback. And this goes back to what Michael Cohen and I were talking about a little while ago. I think we're in the midst of the great American pushback. I think people are seeing what's happening. And I think some of this has been fueled by what's taking place in the last 24 hours. The president of the United States cannot say whether or not we're going to go into a recession. Again, I asked the question, who in the hell voted for this? And so it's called the Great American Pushback. I'm going to be talking about this. I'm going to be highlighting when you guys show up at town halls and make your voices heard, whether it be at the Republican town halls or the Democratic town halls. When you go on social media or when you talk to the local news about what's been happening in your neck of the woods, perhaps there might be the possibility that you were working in a federal job and you were laid off. Anyway, any of those ways that you're trying to push back. I was just at a rally on Friday down on the National Mall. A lot of the government scientists in Washington who have been laid off at places like the NIH and NOAA and so on. I wrote about this. Dr. Francis Collins, who was the head of NIH, he was out there playing his guitar. I wrote about all this in my Substack. All of this is part of the great American pushback. And people might not like calling it the resistance or whatever. Fine, don't call it that. Call it the pushback. Push back for what you think is right. Push back against the lies. Push back against the brutality of what Trump and Musk are dishing out. Push back against hate. Push back against fear. Uh, the Great American Pushback, or GAP, as I called it over the weekend. Mind the gap. And the other thing I want to push back on is this notion that we're just going to piss off our friends and allies. I want to go back to what the new Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, what he said over the weekend, talking about the United States. We didn't ask for this fight, but Canadians are always ready when someone else drops the gloves. A hockey reference there. So the Americans, they should make no mistake. In trade, as in hockey, Canada will win. What are we doing pissing off the Canadians? They are our friends. I don't know if you guys saw this French politician by the name of Claude Malhuret. If I've said his name incorrectly or imprecisely, please forgive me. A senator from France. He gave an 8-minute address to his colleagues in the French Senate last week. And as the Huffington Post reported, it was a clear-eyed assessment of Donald Trump's alarming efforts to destroy democracy both in America and abroad, aided by Elon Musk, whom the senator refers to as a quote ketamine-fueled jester. If you have not seen this speech, go out and look at it. But this French senator said, quote, never in history has a president of the United States capitulated. Never in history has a president of the United States capitulated to the enemy, said the senator, reflecting on Trump's baffling subservience to Russian President Vladimir Putin. Sorry, it's Monday. Um, and the senator goes on to say, never has anyone supported an aggressor against an ally. And he's absolutely right. And so, as part of my contribution to the Great American Pushback, I want to push back against this idea that we can just turn our back on our friends, that we can just alienate our allies. alienate our friends around the world. To me, that is something to push back on. I know there are lots of other things we should push back on. I want to hear your thoughts, so please put them in a chat. When you watch this recording, if there's an opportunity to chat about it, put it in there. Would love to hear more about it. I've been talking too long. It's been an hour. So it's time to wrap up this edition of the Jim Acosta Show on this Monday, this Michael Monday. Michael got me talking earlier today and thinking about this idea of whether he and I should do a town hall. Should we go and do a town hall? I don't know. Maybe we should go out there in the heartland and talk to some folks. Maybe we will do that. It's not a bad idea. But in the meantime, still reporting. I'm Jim Acosta. Thanks for tuning in. Great to talk to you guys on a Monday, a manic Monday. Make it a good evening, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Have a good day. Bye bye.